All right. Good morning, afternoon, evening to everybody. Welcome to another episode of TnT Knows It All Sports. This is your co-host Tye, and alongside my man over there.
Thomas, what's going on, everybody? Good afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are, enjoying our show this Friday.
Yeah. Well, glad we got a couple good topics for you guys this week. We're gonna get into a little bit of the draft class QBs, the pro days. We're gonna talk a little bit about that as one of our agenda items. The next agenda item we're going to talk about this week is the NBA playoff push. So it's a lot of different teams that are trying to get into the playoffs and also getting seedings and matchups and all those things. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then last but not least, Thomas and I are gonna give you some final thoughts that we have on whatever topics we want to talk about. I think they're on similar sports, but different sides of the sport. So should be entertaining. So, well, first we're gonna start
Yep.
off with the draft class, the QB um pro day. So last week we had a few pro days, actually like it was interesting. They all had their pro days like back to back.
Except for Anthony
Second, yeah,
Richardson.
right. Yeah, he was like, I'll just do mine a week later, which was very, very interesting to me. I wonder, like, did they plan this? Because not only pro days is not only for quarterbacks, it's for literally everybody that is draft eligible, at those schools. Um, so we got to see a showcase of the big three/four.
Yeah.
And you guys don't know who those big three/four are. They are Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson. Those are the projected top four quarterbacks to come out of this draft. So
Right.
I'll turn it over to you, Thomas. Like, what were your thoughts on these pro days? And did you learn anything from guys throwing the ball in shorts
With no pressure.
with no pressure to
Yeah,
receivers that they know?
scripted plays. Yeah, so before I start, I'll say I think we talked about this before. This draft class of QBs is interesting
Mm.
for several reasons. Last year was a terrible draft class. It kind of reminds me of the EJ Manuel, Geno Smith draft class, right?
Mhm.
But I think Kenny Pickett will be pretty good. But Malik Willis,
Yeah.
and that's about it. We'll move on. But I mean, Brock Purdy,
Brock Purdy, yeah.
your best quarterback was Mr. Irrelevant. We'll see how it happens. But this draft class is interesting, and the reason for that is because there's about six, I would say six prospects, right?
Mhm.
Your guy in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, Hendon Hooker.
Hayden Hooker, and
Hmm.
then another Stanford. I love Stanford quarterbacks, except for Andrew Luck. You got Trent Edwards, right? If you remember for Buffalo,
Yeah.
you had Davis Mills. These guys don't produce any stats. 13 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, but
Mm.
yeah, they're always in the conversation. I don't know why, but Taylor McKee, right?
Yeah,
McKinney,
Tanner McKee.
Yeah, Tanner McKee.
Yeah.
So interesting. So what I'll say is this draft class reminds me a little bit of the 2018 draft class. Reminds me of that class. Or even the 2020, 21 with Trevor Lawrence. There's no Trevor Lawrence in this draft class, but if you
Right.
take everybody else, the unknowns, right? Anthony Richardson might be the unknown, right? Like Justin Fields, Mac Jones might be I hate to insult him, kind of Bryce Young,
Mm.
but better. They're better than that. So, so I'll go with this draft. Well, let's go through the top people, right? So C.J.
Yeah.
Stroud didn't. I mean, he was as impressive, even though he limited his throws like 60 of them. Impressive as he would before.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is this is. I mean, call me weird, but when was the last time a pocket quarterback is now getting kind of negative publicity because they can't really run? I mean, what world are we
Hmm.
living in? Back then, if you were a running quarterback, aka Lamar, you dropped in a draft, right? You're like, oh, well,
Yeah.
he runs too much, and now that quarterbacks are more mobile, they want that part of their schemes. I
Yeah.
think C.J. Stroud can be, he's not going to be no Josh Allen or a
Right.
Justin Fields, but can he be like Patrick Mahomes? Can he run
Hmm.
like that? I'm not saying or Joe Burrow. Can he run like? So
Yeah.
I like CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I would
But
say just
yeah,
to piggyback what you're saying there. I think I heard Todd McShay say that he's more of an escaper, right? He's not a runner, he's
yeah,
an escaper, and that's good because you need just escaping the rush is
right,
just as good as running. Like I don't need you to run for 800 yards, but I do
right.
need you to be able to escape the rush and then be able to make a play.
Yeah, and slide in the pocket, right?
Right,
So
right.
when the protection breaks down, could he slide in, move out, right? He's not going to be Tom Brady, so I like CJ Stroud. I always like CJ Stroud. What's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are like, "Oh, CJ Stroud, another Ohio State scripted quarterback." I think he can make all the throws,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you got Bryce Young, and I hate using comparisons, but Bryce Young's kind of the Drew Brees. They compare him a lot to Drew Brees, where he's efficient, awareness, doesn't have the strongest arm, but he has good accuracy. The only issue is not his height, by the way. People think his height. No, it's his frame. Are we running into another two? If he gets hit once, is he gonna
Mm-hmm.
be knocked out? But if I'm drafting Anthony Richardson, right? So I
Mm.
like to gamble, guys. I like going to
Mm.
Vegas. I'm a gambler. So if I'm going to pick a player, I'm picking Anthony Richardson.
Mm.
If I'm I the Panthers, I get you can't really do that. You can get a bridge quarterback and give him a year or two because he's a boom or bust. And if we didn't learn anything from Josh Allen, sometimes you just got to take patience, right?
Mm.
And people always want to go with the Sam Darnolds, these guys that are, the typical quarterback, prototypical quarterback that
Mm-hmm.
they do well. But I'm going for the new school. Did you see Anthony Richardson throw he threw yesterday on the pro day? He flicked. He went from his left side, flicked it, and went 60 yards. He even hit the top of the roof, right,
Yeah.
of the stadium. And he can run the ball, and he's only 21, right? So
Yeah.
I would go with him. I get why people would pick C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. I think
Mm-hmm.
they were good careers, but if I'm a gambling man, I'll go with him. Will Levis, I don't know, man. He kind of reminds me of Jake Locker. So
That's actually a pretty good compare. That's a
so
decent comparison.
yeah, so I hate when people saying Josh Allen. Even Tom McShay said that. He's like, "Oh, everyone's pairing." No, I think Josh
No.
Allen's more Anthony Richardson, but
Yeah.
not as athletic when it's come to raw ability, right?
Right.
What did we see yesterday in Sports Center? 53.9 per completion rate, right? Because
Yeah.
his completion rate was 53.9.
Yeah.
Well, same thing with Josh Allen. Took some time and deal with that. And then what I like is sneaky picks. Hendon Hooker, man. If I'm in the second
Yeah.
round, if I'm the Lions, maybe the 18th, somebody that already has a quarterback,
Yeah.
get him set up. Maybe you put Hendon Hooker. I know he's gonna be 26 years old, which I think is dumb. We talk about age for a
Doesn't
quarterback
matter. Right.
because you're not going to be running the ball like
No.
look. Most quarterbacks are playing in the mid 30s, right? So
Right. Right.
they're in late 30s. I mean, so that's who guys I like.
Mm,
And I mean, it's interesting. I'll let you go and
yeah.
ask some questions, but it's just an interesting draft, guys. But I'm going with Anthony Richardson. I actually
Wow.
liked him since day one.
Yeah.
So you guys heard me first say three
Yeah.
podcasts ago. So
Okay. Yeah, it's true. So, wow, yeah, definitely, we're definitely gonna, it's not, I don't, I get what you're saying, actually. I think it depends. I look at it as it depends on what type of team I have. So, of
right,
course, if you're in the top 10, your team is not good because, I mean, that means you stunk last year. But all teams in the top 10 are not built equally, right? So, some
right,
teams are more willing or more close to winning than others. So, for example, like the Colts, they
right,
stunk, but they didn't really stink. Like everybody knows the Colts. I mean, the Colts beat the Chiefs last year. So,
right, right.
they have talent. Can they afford to draft a quarterback that clearly need, like you said, a year or two?
Right.
And do they have the person? Now, I actually think he would fit well for the Colts.
Who answered the original then?
Yes, I
Okay.
do, because I think they just picked up the offensive coordinator for the Eagles.
Eagles. Yep.
So he's a head coach, so he's going to try to have their scheme, and I mean, and we already know how Hurts did, and Anthony Richardson's a better athlete than Hurts. So I
Right.
mean, that's his best athletic quarterback I've ever seen.
Right.
But I I feel like this. I think either first two picks should be Stroud. I mean, I think Stroud is the first pick too. I'm with you. We can't disagree on that. I thought Stroud was the best quarterback. I was saying that last year. I didn't understand. I hate Ohio State too, so it really kills me to have to say that. But it has nothing to do with the kid. The kid is a baller, man. He just knows how to play. So Lil Jonas, you got your props here on
But Jonas was a hater
yeah.
I'm gonna call him out on his podcast here. He was like, "Oh no, he's not going to be any good." And
Yeah.
then Georgia game changed my mind. But go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure we called you out on that. But
Right.
yeah, he's a good player. And Bryce Young, his size, it's a problem. But man, that guy's got it.
Oh, right
He
here.
yeah, man, like the more I watched him at the like, I mean, I know it's pro day, but then I started watching some of his film. I'm like, the guy, he can read the field. He sees the entire field really, really well. Nothing rattles him. He doesn't get rattled. Like you don't see him get rattled ever, ever.
Right.
And he had like the worst line ever. So he's out there, dancing and juking around and making plays. And so
That's
I
what a
think
Colton
he's
they get, honestly.
yeah.
But go ahead.
So I kind of think he's gonna do well. But then after that. And I love Will Levis. I like Will Levis before, so he told me, how I feel. But I know he needs some time. He
Mm-hmm.
needs time, but I also think he has the ability, but he has to go to the right place.
Right, right, right.
Because last year and now more people are now as they started doing it, they're looking at the tape, they saw what I saw this year in Kentucky. Because I was a fan of him 2 years ago. I kept telling you about him. I was like, yo, this kid from Kentucky. I never seen anybody good from, Couch was from Kentucky, but he really wasn't good. It was kind of like fool's gold. This kid, I'm like, this guy's a pro.
Right. Paxton
Um,
Lynch or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
So, but I would not draft him or Anthony Richardson early. I just wouldn't do it. Like
All
they're so, and
right.
it's not because I don't think they're that good. It's because of who you mentioned before, and that's Hendon Hooker. I think he's just as people forget he is just as good as those guys. He actually played way better than them. Not even close. It's not even close if you try to
The-
compare how he played this year in comparison to those guys. And everyone agrees that I'm not saying Alabama is the greatest team, but you would say that Alabama's defense is very comparable to an NFL defense. He carved them like they were, Alabama and Alabama Birmingham's defense, not the University of
right, right,
Alabama.
right.
I mean, he can make every throw. He's an athlete. He's got the size. He's got the accuracy, and I understand the 26-year-old thing, and that is something. But as a GM, I think he could come in and play now. So
Right.
I'm not saying I draft, but that doesn't mean I draft him in the first round. I would be like, look, let me stock up on all these other guys. If I can't get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, I'm not picking. Like if I'm Seattle and they're like, get Anthony Richardson, why? Either
I would.
I'm not getting him at number 5. I'm waiting till because they have 2 first-round picks. I would
Yeah.
wait. And if somebody goes up and gets him, great. Then I'll get Hendon Hooker later.
Right. But you know
I mean
he's
that
not
that
gonna last that long. You know that.
Hendon Hooker's not
He's
going to
a,
be a first-round pick.
no, no, no. No, my Anthony Richardson ain't gonna last
Oh, of
past
course, no.
8.
I, I
The Raiders might be the last pick. You know, like the pick the line.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, that's because teams will have to trade it. It'd
Yeah.
be a team that is already, but that's why I'm saying it's different. If you're a team that's good, then you trade up. If you
Right. Right.
stink, you can't get this guy. I'm sorry. It just you can't. You're not good. You can't afford to do those things in my book when you
Right.
stink. Like if I'm
Right.
Dallas, let's say if I'm the Cowboys, sure, pick them.
Right.
We're already good. I mean, we're not dying for a need. I'll pick him. And that means in 2 years, when Dak's contract goes up, you could have him. Like that to me is like an outside the box thought.
Right.
But if
But if you
you're, you
but if
know,
you're looking at top 10, except for Detroit, what team? Okay, maybe the Colts. They're not a quarterback away, brother.
right,
They're a whole. That's why that's for me.
right.
I would take the chance and sit him, like really sit him.
But that's why I mean they're not a quarterback away, which is why can you afford in the NFL when you see teams turn around, can you afford to pick a guy, wait for 2 years when you could get an impact player now. You can get 2 impact, let's say you get good first round, good second round pick that are really impact players now. And you got free agents. You could turn around the season when you're already decent.
Yeah,
So it's tough. I think it just depends. So I'm not knocking you what you're saying, but that
yeah,
is definitely a gamble. Like that's
yeah. But I'm a gambling. So I like boom or bust
and, and
quarterbacks.
and what's funny about what you're saying is to support what you're saying, the team that I actually think that could do that won't do it, but could is Houston.
They
Because
should.
even though everybody hates Davis Mills, he's not terrible. He
Nice.
actually is not terrible. He's not the greatest quarterback of all time, but he's not the reason why they stunk. He didn't play terrible last year. They
Right,
just
right,
they have no talent. They had no talent
right.
around him. So if in your case, you're right. Draft somebody, either draft him at number one because they got two picks, don't they, in the first round?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so I'm like, I'd draft
Oh, yeah,
Houston.
13. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
13.
So draft him. I'm like,
Eh,
okay, I'm gonna draft him, and then I know I'm gonna get a quality guy at 13, so that it's not a loss. You got a first round grade guy, and then you can have him sit and develop if you make sure you have a good development guy. Now you got your quarterback in a year or two, because Davis Mills will be fine for the next year or so, and
yeah.
so that would be
Yeah,
smart.
that's true. But and what's interesting about his draft is that there's only eight good players, like impact players outside
Yeah,
of quarterback. So to your point, people are like, I got to get that guy first and see if he drops.
yeah,
But if I'm Detroit in Seattle, I would draft him. And the reason for I don't know, you could do a 5 or 6 as a gamble. Jared Goff was only on the hook for 25 million in the next 2 years. That's
yeah,
that's dirt cheap for a quarterback.
right,
And Geno Smith is 33 million. You
yeah.
get those guys for 2 years, you don't sit. That's well, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I do
yeah,
think that those two teams make sense because they can afford it. But I also think Seattle, both of those teams to me in the NFC could actually compete for the NFC title this year.
they
You see
need
what I'm
and they need
saying?
to, yeah,
They
sure.
both of them were both like they were like 7 and 8 technically, right? Because they both had the same record. And everybody in the NFC, no one really got that great. There's still San Francisco, Philly, Dallas. We made some couple. I do like the moves we made, but I still don't trust, our quarterback.
Mhm.
And then all the rest of everybody else is pretty much free. So you could slide those guys up. So if you get, let's say you get a Tyree Wilson or a Christian Gonzalez, you now all of a sudden, I mean,
Mhm.
they're because they both need defensive help. Like
Yeah.
you you
Or
start
Jalen
elevating. Yep.
or Jalen Carter might drop to them.
Yep. Right. Right.
Yeah.
I know.
Which they need. Both of them need D tackles badly. They
Yes.
need a lip, but yeah.
Yep. So anyway, I did think that the thing was pretty interesting. I did watch most of them, but yeah. Oh, by the way, before we go off topic, there is one quarterback. It's not a sleeper because everyone should know who this guy is. There's two quarterbacks that are later round picks that I think will be serviceable. One,
Well, let me take a
Max
guess.
Max Duggan.
Oh, yeah, I knew you were gonna say Max Duggan.
I'm
Yep.
sorry. I mean, Max, you see him, do you see his 40? I know it's his 40
Yeah.
time. It doesn't mean anything. They ran
Yeah.
like a 4
Four
5.
five 4 5 40. Yeah,
I mean, so he clearly is athletic enough and he's a competitor and he can
yeah.
make
But yeah,
throws. And
he
then the
just
other
holds
one,
onto the ball too long. But go ahead. Yeah.
and the other one is I know everyone wants to say it because, they're like, well, he had a great team around him, but Stetson Bennett. I would draft Stetson Bennett in the
Wow.
fifth round.
Oh
He
yeah, yeah, yeah,
he
yeah,
is
yeah.
and he could be your backup. He is to me, if Brock Purdy, everyone loves Brock Purdy, he's better than Brock Purdy. He actually is better
Yeah.
than him. You can look at him. He is.
Mhm.
And the combine, when you saw him, he was making he was a third best passer in at the combine.
Huh?
And
Yeah,
that of all those guys. And so he can make all the deep balls, he can make the out plays, and plus he actually is a sneaky athlete. He didn't run the
yeah.
40 in the combine because
I,
um
I thought you were gonna say Aiden O'Connell from Purdue,
I do
but
love Aiden. I do love Aiden.
I've
I do love Aiden.
gone like
I
a little
what he's gonna
bootleg
do.
Drew
Yeah.
Brees. I compare
He's
him to Drew Brees.
he's so tall. He's tall though. He's like
I
six
know,
five. I
I
like
know,
Aiden.
but
Yeah, I like
yeah,
Aiden a lot, but I don't know in the league we're in, I'm trying to figure out like he has to go to a certain team that has a quarterback similar to him. So
yeah,
like I would see Aiden, he has to go to like Cincinnati or
yeah,
he's got to go to Jacksonville or like somewhere where quarterback is, not
yeah.
really mobile,
Right, right.
but
And
he can make all the plays.
talk about a quarterback that lost a year. Like he would have been a second round
Hmm.
pick. Jared Hall. Like I mean, for BYU,
Yeah,
how you go from
I
being a
know,
second round possibly pick in the beginning to like maybe even a sixth round? They're talking about fourth to
I
sixth
know,
round.
I know. It's
But
gonna be
but
interesting.
but we learned. I mean, I always tell people the state of Utah. I don't know why. Like that the quarterback, the best quarterback in the state of Utah, right, or
Hmm.
played in the state of Utah is
Hmm.
Tyler Hundley. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I mean, it,
And he's from Arizona
right,
originally, so that
right,
tells you, right?
right, right, right. But yeah, so
Yeah.
but talk about a guy that dropped. Maybe he get maybe he gets drafted in the fifth round. He's that guy that like comes out of nowhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
So he got exposed though.
Yeah. So anyway, it should be interesting. And man, the draft can't come. The draft, by the way, people that aren't aware, is April 27th through the 30th. If I feel like I should be paid for ESPN for promoting the draft.
It's in Kansas City too.
Yeah, it's in
So
Kansas City, so it should be a good one. All right, so next topic for us to discuss is the NBA playoff push. So I know there's a lot of I've been listening to some of the people that are on here. Some people are more football fans than NBA fans, but I'm telling you, if you love basketball, this is going to be probably the best playoffs. And the playoffs have been good in the last couple years, but this is probably going to be the best playoffs that I can recall, where teams that are in the bottom part of the standings actually have a chance to win and a legit chance. So what I'm gonna do is gonna share with you guys some of the standings, and I just will you guys have heads up just to see at this point. Um, all right, can you see my screen there, Thomas?
yeah. Scroll down and yep.
All right. So Eastern Conference. So right now, all these teams, the top four teams, have already clinched. You got the Knicks, who are fifth, and Brooklyn somehow, even after the trade, which remember, if you can remember a couple uh podcasts ago or a couple shows ago, this guy said that the Brooklyn Nets are actually going to be fine even
Mm-hmm.
after the trade.
Right.
Well, look at them now. They're number six. So
Which I hate because I was trying to get the draft pick. But go ahead.
I know.
As
Sorry,
a
Houston.
Rockets fan, but
So then so seven through 10 is Miami's right now currently at the seven. Atlanta's eight, Toronto's nine, and Chicago is 10. So Thomas, before we get into the West, who in this mix do you most likely think to have a run of the
whew.
play-in?
Oh man. Oh, the plan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
Do
I
you
like
see any?
Chicago. I
Hmm.
mean, I like. So Chicago was interesting. I know they had like a 2 game loss, and I was actually it's because I was actually reading about just the NBA, just talking through it, right?
Hmm.
I mean, I like Chicago. Chicago, Atlanta, Chicago. You're pointing at Chicago,
Hmm.
yeah. And I mean, can Atlanta get it together? How you have all that
I don't
talent?
know.
And just,
I
I
don't
personally
know.
think they need to like not play Clint Capella as much, but that's just me. But maybe
Mm.
try
Hmm.
a little small ball approach, right? The
Hmm.
playoffs, man. Just you got to
Yeah.
try a little different approach. And then you can't, and then the Heat. But I like Chicago. I think Chicago, Toronto. I mean, people say, "What about Toronto?" I just don't think they're bench. I mean, that's just me. And NBA,
Mm-mm.
I always look at like
Hmm.
is it well, your bench got to step up. You know how it is. Every
Hmm.
playoff run is that bench player that comes out of nowhere
Yeah.
that starts, which they had,
Hmm.
Fred used to come off out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I would say. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Ooh, those are good. I can't disagree. The team I think the most and they're 10th. The team I think you're right is Chicago. They're the
Right,
most dangerous team. So Milwaukee, everyone believes Milwaukee is the best team. I think that the one, two, or three teams are interchangeable. I don't think there's any difference between those teams, to be honest with you.
right,
I think Philly can win. I think Boston can win. We saw yesterday they beat Milwaukee by 41 points in Milwaukee with everybody playing. So that tells you that they clearly can beat Milwaukee. And then Milwaukee, who probably has the best roster in NBA. But
right.
what you don't know is that Milwaukee struggles against a certain team. That team is Chicago.
Hmm.
Chicago is like against Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly. I think Chicago is 7-3 against those teams this season.
Seven and
Seven and
three.
th yes,
Wow.
yeah. So but they stink against all the bad teams. So
Right.
they can't beat Detroit. Detroit had beat them like twice or something. Or Indiana beats them.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to play Chicago because they're not gonna be scared. They're gonna have the best guards on the court in in all series
Mm-hmm.
because you got Levine and
And then DeRozan.
DeRozan. And so in the guard oriented game, that makes it kind of difficult. Now the front court isn't the greatest, but they seem to play well. It's weird. I wouldn't want Chicago. The other team
Right.
is the Heat. I don't think the Heat are that great, but who wants to play the Heat? It's just ugly. You're getting beat up every second of the game. Like they just make it so physical. They compete, and you got Jimmy Butler, who's probably I would say top five most clutch players in the league,
Right.
arguably most clutch player in the league. Like I mean, I mean Dame Lillard, and then I would put him second. Like that's
Right.
how I feel about Jimmy Butler. I don't want to play him. If I'm Chicago, I'm Boston. I don't want a Southern. They had a 7-game series last year against them. I don't want to play them again.
Right. Right. Right.
So I think those are the two teams that could make a run. Do I think in the East they will make a run? The answer is no. I don't believe that those going to come out of that team. Now, by the way, just for the record, the Wizards, who I'm actually going to the Wizards game tonight, um, they are 2 games out of 10th, so they could technically get in, but they're not going to get in. They're
Right.
It's not going to happen because they're sitting a bunch of players. But yeah. So all right, really quick. There's
And
really
the West.
the
Yeah.
West. The West is insane. So I got it
Right.
covered. I mean, you got the
Oof.
first 3 teams have clinched, right? And again, congratulations to the Sacramento Kings. You guys might have fell asleep at the first one when I gave you guys the NBA talk, but I did say it.
Right.
And again, very nice to hear that the Kings, I'm telling you, they're my league pass team. I've been watching them since the first month of the season. I was like, these guys are good, they're legit, and I'm happy for them. And I actually think they're gonna surprise a lot of teams, but that's for another podcast when we get to see the matchups.
And they're very good on the road, bro.
They
As
are.
you can see that too. But I just think that's what I was saying
Yep.
out there.
Yeah, they have the best road record in the West
Right.
of any team in the West. So everyone's like, oh, they're easy. All right, you go find out how easy they are.
Right.
Um, So here we get to from 4 to 11, actually till 12. 4 to 12 is a 5-game difference. Now there's only 5 games left, so Utah is not going to catch Phoenix for the 4 seed. But
No.
the Pelicans possibly is 2.5 games, or you know, I really would say Phoenix and the Clippers, they kind of got it in. They're going to be in the play-in or the top. But Golden State is a game up on the Pelicans and the Timberwolves, a game and a half up on the Lakers, and 2 games up on the Thunder.
Right.
This and then the team, by the way,
Minnesota?
Dallas.
Oh,
Dallas.
Dallas. Oh, Dallas.
Dallas made that trade. We're like, oh, Kyrie Irving. And it's not even him. I don't blame him. I was talking about it before.
It's
It's the
who do they
personnel.
have?
Exactly. Their personnel is terrible. I mean,
They look like the Packers, but they're literally the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, like this. You know what I'm saying? They, like, I mean,
right.
comparing it, like for people football reasons, I would say they're the Packers of
Yeah.
basketball.
Yep. And much
You
props
know?
to the Jazz, by the way, of
Right,
playing well.
right,
But
right. Right.
they're done. And Portland already gave in. They're like, we're done. So of these teams, Thomas, and I'm
Right.
gonna stop sharing.
Yeah,
Um, who do you think has the is
the
most likely
run.
to make a run? Yeah.
I'm going with the Pelicans, bro. So
Mm,
first, I'm gonna tell you, if you guys don't know who he is, Brandon Ingram is the most
mm,
slept-on player in the
mm,
NBA. Right?
mm,
I know he looks like a string bean. I get it, but the guy missed 40 games. He only played 40 games. But did you watch the last 5 games?
mm,
He's averaging over almost too close to 30 points. Right? They got
yep.
CJ McCullough, Zion. He's cleared to practice. I don't.
I
Oh
know.
God. If they imagine it, so I and then I like the coaching. I like the Pelicans. The only and then I like Murray the third, right? The only
Hmm.
problem is they got me and you on the bench. Okay, so
Yeah.
their benches.
Yeah.
Ooh, and so
Yeah.
and then but you got OKC who is probably the most talented, one of the most talented teams in the NBA, right?
Hmm.
When it comes to pure talent, when it comes to players,
Yeah.
we'll see what kind of run they have, but is it Minnesota's chance this year? Like, is
Yeah.
Minnesota going to make a run? Now, you said something in our we have a chat room we talk about all the time.
Yep.
The best thing might have happened was Carl Anthony Towns actually got hurt because
Yeah.
you could tell him a little bit more of it, but he's writing notes. Maybe
Hmm.
his girl talked to him and said, like you're probably no. And I've said this. We've been saying this for a while. When it comes to pure talent, right? Just there's a few people in the league.
Hmm.
He's in the top 5 when it comes to pure talent, like Joel Embiid. He should be where Joel Embiid should be, right?
Hmm.
And I think I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but talent wise, I mean, he might be even better than Joel Embiid. Talent, right? You know, so I
Oof,
know we're going to
yeah,
go back and fight. It's tough,
yeah,
but when he puts it
I can
together,
see that.
it because well, first off, also talent means are you healthy? That's another like Joel Embiid is great,
Yeah.
but maybe that was an insult. My bad. Let me take that back. But he's close. But maybe because I love Joel. Reminds me
Yeah.
of a better version of Dream. But that's what I'm saying when it comes to talent. Uh, he's and I saw the game when you were watching it.
Hmm.
He's finally driving it home. My man was shooting
Hmm.
threes. Like he
Hmm.
had a 6'3" mentality, brother. You're 7 foot, 240 pounds.
Yeah.
Dive to the damn hole, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see that. And then obviously their bench is pretty good. They still Minnesota. When is Minnesota going to have shooters? I mean, like
Yeah.
when are they going to have shooters? But one team I like to have a kind of a run would be the Pelicans.
Yeah.
So that's just the team I'll pick.
Yeah. I think so it's a tough one. I one thing I do think when it comes to who's gonna make it, right now it's the Pelicans 7, Timberwolves 8, Lakers 9, Thunder 10, Mavericks 11, which means the Mavericks are not gonna be in. Based on the schedule, I don't think the Mavericks gonna make it. And it's crazy. Now I would love them to make it because I'd love to see the Mavericks versus the Lakers or something in that first play-in game, and you get that whole Kyrie, LeBron storyline and Luca, LeBron. I mean, it would be just and pure entertainment. And plus, when they play each other, it'd be great. But I don't think they're gonna make it. They have too many road games. They got to play against all teams that really need to win. And they can't stop anybody. So of the teams of those other four teams, everyone looks at Lakers. I like the Lakers roster. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think they're gonna be tough. Um, but
The Lakers.
I do
Yeah.
think the Lakers are gonna be tough. However, um, I'm going with the Timberwolves, and it's not it's it's because of the way they played without Karl Anthony Towns, actually, is what makes me think that they could be good. Um, they have probably they're playing their defense lately has been elite. I mean, they suffocate everybody. I mean, what they lost the game to the Suns, but they were locking them down. They just couldn't hit any shots and they were getting a bunch of bad calls. I mean, I think they had like 8 offensive fouls called on them. It was something crazy. Um, but KD was struggling. Why? Because you got Jalen McDaniels, who's a 7 footer. How many 7 foot wings do you have besides KD? Who got one? Minnesota has one. So they actually
Yeah.
have somebody that can. He's not going to stop him, but at least
That
he's
was a
kind
great
of assigned.
trade, by the way.
Great, great trade to get that guy. And then really the way they play, they move the ball well now. And like you said with Karl Anthony Towns, so what he did was he was hurt and he started taking notes. And he was like, look, I need to know what are the things that I can do to fit in with these guys that are winning because they were winning without him. He hasn't played since like November or December, something or January 1st, something like that. It was a long time. Um, and what he realized they needed is they don't need somebody to jack a bunch of shots, so he doesn't have to take 30 shots but they do need him to be able to make some shots on the outside because, like you said, they need shooting on the outside, which he can, but then also be able to get some. I need to get the ball in the post a couple times and get some easy baskets. And
Right.
he's been their go-to guy in the clutch because he's not getting burnt out throughout the game because you got Anthony Edwards, who's clearly to me their best player.
Yeah.
And Mike Conley. So I like the Timberwolves. I think if they get in, they're gonna like if they played the Grizzlies again this year. Last year that was a great series. I'm like, ooh, Grizzlies might, and the Grizzlies are good. I don't know if they want to play this Timberwolves team. I actually think, I think if the Timberwolves play the Grizzlies, I might actually have to pick the Timberwolves to win. Now,
Okay.
yep. But the only thing that just happened, and it just came on my screen, was Naz Reid, the center, broke his wrist and he's out indefinitely. He has been huge. He can shoot from the
Oh,
outside,
he
and
wouldn't
he's a
break it.
center.
When did he
He
break his
broke
wrist?
he broke his wrist
Yeah.
against the Suns on the other night on Wednesday night. So that really, really hurts them. So that makes me pause a little bit. But yeah, really quick, who do you think is the most important player in the playoffs? Do you got a person you think is most important? So for me, well, I'll
Go
give you a chance to
ahead.
think
Go
about it.
ahead.
So for me, you mentioned him, Zion. If Zion Williamson plays, I'm with you 100% because the Pelicans are already going to be somehow in this plan. But now you add Zion to it because then you could put, like you said, you put Troy Murphy on on the bench because he's been playing well, but you don't have any bench players. Or you could put Zion on the bench actually, which might help them because you don't need to start him. They
But
need
is
bench
he?
players.
But is he gonna be cool with that? You know
He
how
might
Zion
be.
is.
He might.
Okay.
He get to eat. Like that's the thing
Yeah.
with him, and he likes to eat. So no, no pun intended. That's no pun intended. I'm sorry. I got to throw that. But I think that might actually work for him. So like if Zion plays, Pelicans go to the Western Conference Finals. Like, and that's not even mean being nuts because if he was healthy, they wouldn't be a 7 seed. They would be the 4, or they would be fighting
Yeah.
for the 3. I mean,
Hmm.
they're only 2 games out of the 4th seed now. So
Right.
that
Right.
tells you, how good they are. So,
Oh,
um,
I mean that's a good. I'm just trying to think of who. I mean, for Miami, I think Tyler Hero, right? Can he put the Magic? Because
yeah.
you thought because when I look at the NBA, so what I like about NBA playoffs, I don't watch as much regular season with you, but like
Mhm.
if you look at the NBA playoffs, and it's almost every playoff, but mostly NBA playoffs, it's an unsung hero. Like somebody just steps up because the focus doesn't become them, right?
Mhm.
But with Miami, they got to shoot the ball better. Like you know what I
Oh
mean.
yeah.
So if
Yeah.
they don't shoot the ball better, I mean they got Bam. Bam is cool, but like other outside of Bam, they're not going to the hole like that, right? So
No.
so that if it's Miami, and then Zach Levine, ran. I want to talk two
Mm.
players, but Zach also I think it's be Zach's last year in Chicago. That's my personal opinion. I think
Mm.
he might be traded. So
Mm.
does he show up and say, hey, what's going on? Uh, but we'll see. But my favorite player slept on a lot is Brandon Ingram. I always like
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram.
Yeah.
He just weighs 100 pounds is a problem. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
but because he gets hurt, Mr. Glass. But he's good. It's interesting. It's gonna be a
Yeah.
really interesting playoff in the East. You think the West, the East is
Oh,
gonna
I
be
know. I
woof.
know. I know. I know.
So,
Both of them. I mean, I think the only one that I think is going to be a cakewalk is Brooklyn, Philly. Brooklyn has no chance
yeah,
to beat Philly. They
yeah,
have zero chance. All the other series, though, even it doesn't matter who, even Milwaukee. I don't see. Again, it just depends. It's Milwaukee. Look, what if it's Milwaukee, Miami? Like
yeah,
or Toronto. Even though just it's gonna be
yeah.
really, really, really,
And
really
who's gonna be
intriguing.
hot? Somebody
Yeah,
there's gonna be somebody who's gonna be hot, man. So,
yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. The end of the regular season is like April 9th or something like that, so it's coming up
hmm
soon, and the first playing game is April 11th. I
hmm
think it's April 11th and 12th or 12th and yeah, 11th and 12th. And then the playoffs officially start on the 15th.
okay,
So 2 weeks from now, we'll
right,
be talking about it. So once we get those playoff matches, we'll definitely talk about it. All right.
absolutely.
So finally, we got some final thoughts. I'll let you go first, Thomas, with
Yeah.
your final thought for this episode.
All right. Well, I'm going to stick to the theme of basketball. So I don't know if you guys watched the McDonald All American game
Mm,
this week. It was actually one of the best McDonald All American games I've seen, and I'll tell you
yeah,
why. First, the talent. The
yeah.
reason why Florida Atlantic and San Diego State are in the Final Four
Hmm.
is because the recruits last year weren't that good. They didn't show up. Duke had a number one, number two recruits, right? Whitehead and Levy,
Livers,
Derek Levy.
Levy,
Where's
yeah,
Levy? Yeah,
Liver,
yeah,
yeah, Levy.
yeah. Levy. So they had those two guys, right?
Hmm.
He scores 0 points, Levy, the number one recruit against Tennessee, right? 0 points, and Whitehead had 8. Actually,
Hmm.
if you actually look at it, and this is something I like to do, is and that Ty and I do this often, is we look at like players going to the draft and like where they're ranked, and I think the AU circuit messes it up, but it's like how are the top 6 recruits? They didn't even show up this year, like they didn't
Yeah.
show up at all. This year is different, right? And the reason I'm speaking about that is because this draft class, I'm sorry, this class, this recruiting class why is Bronny getting all the love? I mean, that's what I'm saying. What? Bronny's a ranked 28th in the ESPN, 32 everything in other Max Prep, right?
Yeah.
And it's like every time you talk about his class, Bronny headlines it. I'm confused. And I said LeBron is the GOAT, right? One of the, always the greatest time, but he's up there, right? So
Yeah.
LeBron is great. But if his name was Bronny Smith, he'd just be a regular
Yeah.
three and D type of player, 6'3" point guard who can't pass at a point guard, the point guard
Not at
that
all.
will get it. And we're not
Yeah.
talking about your guy Colliard. We're not
Yeah.
talking about Justin Edwards, the number one recruit going
Yeah.
to Kentucky. We're not
Yeah.
talking about my one of my favorite players in the draft class, DJ Wagner. You saw him in the second half.
Yeah.
I think he
Yeah.
got a little bored in the first, and his scrimmage game he looked
Yeah.
phenomenal. We're talking about Bronny. Like, come
Yeah.
on, guys. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, come on, guys. Like, I get it, but we have to respect the player. And this is where
Yeah.
I don't this is one thing I don't like about basketball, the AU
Mhm.
circuit,
Yeah.
is it's like a political campaign.
Yeah.
And it's all the money and the circuits you're in. Unlike football recruiting, I'm not the biggest fan of college football, but the recruiting is good. They don't care if Deion Sanders, I'll give you an example. I'll tell my friend. If Deion Sanders' son was a cornerback, but he was okay, nobody would be talking about him. Actually, Deion had a son that played in I think Jacksonville State. He was okay, right?
Hmm.
They were like, oh, you can't run like Deion, right?
Right.
But if you're really good, like Patrick was saying, the second, the different players like that, you get the hype. I just feel that players in the AU circuit get more hype. Dwayne Wade's kid got hype. Where's Scottie Pippen Jr. at?
He's
Uh,
playing the G League.
yeah. Shaquille O'Neal, Sharif O'Neal. I mean, he was getting
G
all
League.
this hype, right? But Peja's son don't get that much love.
No, sir.
I mean, Carlos Boozer's son would be the number one recruit in the country if he comes out, right? And
That
which is
boy's a
great,
beast.
which at least you can tell LeBron, I got you on something. But we have to be better at the recruiting,
Hmm.
and that's what's really messing up college basketball. These, if you look at the last two classes, the top players are not really producing
Hmm.
as much as we thought, and it's because the AU circuit is becoming a political game, and people are getting like because you're exposed and you do okay there you're like a top recruit. So we got to get better at that. Like, and then
Yeah.
no offense to Bronny or anything, I think Bronny would be a good player. He'll probably be in the NBA. They're talking about top 10 draft pick.
Yeah.
But he would be a late first round pick, maybe. But
Yeah.
those are my final thoughts. Get better AU circuit. Stop
Yeah.
playing. And what's interesting, Ty, if you guys
Hmm.
watch Fresh Prince of Bel Air, it's kind of corny,
Hmm.
but I watch it.
It's
They
really good.
talk about it too.
Yeah.
Will's on their AU card. Like he had to pay to get in $10,000. And it's like, even though the show, it's actually the truth. That's
Yeah.
what really happens.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
final thought.
Well, I mean, just to piggyback, I have a couple friends. I think they're watching. Hopefully, they watch this too. That have kids that are playing in the AAU circuit, and it's true. I mean, they have to find out the best teams, and it's not just what school you play for anymore, like it used to be. You got to find the right AAU team, and it's a business, and you got to start to promote yourself. So they have like Instagram pages and like you got to film yourself and have that out there so people can see you. It's a lot more work than just being able to be a really good basketball player. So it's tough, it's sad, but it is the nature of what it is. I don't love it either. I'm with you. I really don't. Like what happened to be able to hoop? If you can hoop, you can be in there. Um,
Right.
but really quick, just before I get on mine, I do want to say one thing that I watched the McDonald's All-American game. I watched the Throne, which is going on. It's like a national
Yeah.
championship thing, and there's another national championship thing going on in Fort Myers, which a friend of mine is actually going to watch the game today. Um, what is really killing me, also about these guys, and you mentioned it, Bronny. Bronny hit 5 threes. It was great, but these kids cannot make a pass anymore. Not even like,
Right.
and I'm not talking about okay, the guy's right next to you to pass. They're like dribbling so fast, and then they throw the ball and they turn it over, or they can't pass the ball. It's guys are wide open, and I'm in the lane, so I'm gonna do all this crazy stuff and throw it up. Like
Yeah.
just pass it to the guy that's under the hoop. It's the fundamentals of basketball is going away, and the reason why, and when I watch AAU games, is because everybody presses all the time and everything is extra fast, and the coaches do not teach folks how to play
Yeah.
fast but slow.
Instagram. Everyone wants to
Yep,
be on social media
yep,
to be a hype.
yep,
And this is why Florida Atlantic and all these teams
yep,
are in because they're playing real basketball,
yep,
passing the ball and
yep,
fundamentals, man.
yep.
So
And I'm enjoying Florida Atlantic too, by the way. All right, so my final take is also on basketball, but it is on college women's basketball. Your favorite topic, Thomas.
I don't want to get
Yeah,
canceled.
I know. I won't cancel. I won't cancel you.
But
So I'll say this, as a father of all girls, I've been paying attention to the women's sports just to see, as my girls get older, how it's going to be, what the competition is. They play soccer. My youngest plays basketball. She likes it. She plays everything actually. Um, and what I'm seeing in the last 6 years is how really good these women are. Um, the college tournament, that March Madness for women has been extremely entertaining. Probably, definitely more entertaining than the men's. The skill level is really high. The passion is great. You're starting to see stars. You got a 40-point triple double, 40-point triple double by Caitlin Clark. She's hitting shots from Steph Curry range with people on her. It's ridiculous. It's been really entertaining. I'm really looking forward to watching the Final Four tonight, or at least recording. I'm not gonna be able to be here, but I will watch it when I get home. Um, the thing that my thoughts is, and I know again I'm saying these things, but I don't know if anyone's gonna hear me, is um it is sad still that they do put out such a good product. And I saw something where last the Elite Eight had more viewers than any NBA game this season. The women's Elite Eight had more viewers than any NBA game this season. And
wow.
they still are being treated as second class citizens. And that's disappointing because for me, I'm like, look, I get it when it's money, it's a business. You're like, look, I would love to give you whatever you need, but it costs money if I can get fans to come in and watch, or people are not watching, then I can't pay you as much. I actually understand that. Now, that's not the case now. So if that's not the case now, we need to do better and have more quality. Um, because we're starting to see the talent, we're starting to see a good product. It's getting viewership. I want to see that, these girls are getting the quality because I want to make sure when my daughters get in there, they're getting equality. And I think it's fair. The only thing I will say um is if I give women's basketball any suggestion, it is they have rules in women's basketball that is actually making it less ability to showcase talent. For example, there's no 3-second defensive rule. That means I'm watching games. I'm like, what? I'm watching, like, what is happening? Why is there 3 or 4 people defenders in the paint? Because they are allowed to camp in the paint. Which was does that do? You got 2 or 3 of your best players in the entire country are post players. They can't showcase their
Right.
skills because now they're getting triple team. Now they still score. Doesn't mean they don't score, but it mucks up your
Right.
game. They need to change it because the skill level is so good now that you can't have the primitive rules as they were in the past. Because those are rules that we had in high school when I was in high school in 1997, 96. We're 2000, 23 now. Like let's expand the rules. So hopefully
Yeah.
they get more into, coming of age with the rules and get those women the shine they need.
Right. Well, I'm I don't really watch it, so but I'll add that the only thing about women basketball is that it's very top heavy, right? So the top people the recruits go over there like I mean, there's teams that haven't won a game this year. Like I mean, there's a team that was 0 and 20. I'm being serious,
Mm,
0 and 20, and there's Dartmouth that was 0 and 14. So it's good they did that. They just got to another thing with AEU, right? Like actually for women, because
yeah, A
we have
for
a
women.
friend. Yeah, we have a friend. Jonas' friend. His friend's daughter is going to be like a probably a top 20 recruit. And now these days, if you actually look at college basketball, which finally they're doing it, I mean, I saw Xavier would attend the recruit in the country. I've never even seen Xavier we even be in the top 100, right? So,
Hmm.
but if you look at it, it's Connecticut dominating Duke. So they just got to open up the circuit. It's because that's just, I mean,
Hmm.
that's my thought.
Yeah. Well,
And so,
well,
that's just,
but just to make sure you're
I'm not
aware,
an expert, but you go
I know you're not.
ahead.
That's why this year's been great because two of the top teams left. There is no UConn. There is no
But they were 18 and
Tennessee.
3 though. I
Yeah,
mean, they
but
were still tough.
they didn't even make to the Final Four. They lost. They didn't even make it to the Elite Eight.
They lost to Iowa, yeah, or whatever,
So
whoever
that's what I
took.
mean. So you got Virginia Tech. That's a football school, let alone a women's basketball team in there.
Yeah.
LSU. I didn't even know LSU had a women's basketball team. I'm just joking. I knew they did. I mean,
No,
they
it's
got
Lisa
then
Soups or
yeah.
Lisa Leslie, whatever. Where
No,
she
that
went to
was
LSU.
nope. She went to Louisiana Tech, not
Oh,
Louisiana.
okay.
So exactly. So it's
Yeah,
different.
it's not my forte, guys. So
Right. So I'm helping them out. That's what I'm helping out. And then you got Iowa, and then of course South Carolina, which was great. I mean, you can't. But they actually two number one seeds lost before the Sweet 16. In women's, that never happens. It happens in men's, but it hasn't happened in women's. And why is because the game is better. And you watch those games,
yeah,
there's a lot more talent there. It's finally catching up the AAU circuit. The women are playing. There's tons of good basketball players now.
yeah.
And so you're going to see moving forward, you're not going to see just the same, one or two teams like you did in the
That's
past.
good.
So that is good.
It
So
was
I think
on
it's good.
sports in general.
Yeah, it's good to see parity. All right.
Yeah. Syracuse women and men suck. So hopefully one day one of them could do something.
2003 is what it says last national champ. Only national champion 2003. That's why I have it for them here. I had a rest in peace Syracuse basketball. Now.
R.I.P. Yeah, I know.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, thanks, Tom, for another good episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening. So, look, please like. I know people are watching it. We'd love to see some likes, some subscriptions to keep going up, and again, let us know what you want to hear. Your feedback is great. We're gonna keep doing this because we love doing it, but we also want to hear from the people that are watching and make sure that you guys are enjoying this or feedback. We've incorporated some people's feedback, and we will continue to do so as long as it's good feedback. So,
All right.
all right, guys.
Take care, guys.
All right, thanks. Till next time. Bye.
All right, bye.